Welcome back to my inner sanctum. I'm your hostess, Countess Elizabeth, mistress of the macabre. Over 600,000 individuals go missing in the United States every year. So, my fiends, this series will be dedicated to covering cases of those who have gone missing. It is estimated that 1,600 people every year go missing on public lands, such as national parks, gone without a trace. On today's video, we will cover 2 disappearances that occurred in the Great Smoky Mountain National Park in Tennessee. So, let us go hiking in the mountains, so we can explore our grotesque curiosity. The first case we'll be looking into is the disappearance of Dennis Martin. Dennis, a 6-year-old resident of Knoxville, Tennessee, was visiting the Great Smoky Mountain National Park along with his father, grandfather, and older brother on Father's Day weekend in 1969. The camping trip was a family tradition for the Martins. The family hiked from Cades Cove to Russell Field and camped overnight. The next day they hiked to Spence Field near the Appalachian Trail where they planned to spend the night. The child was planning on surprising the adults with his brother and other children from a separate family that the Martins were camping with. He was last seen with his father going behind a bush to hide, intending to surprise the adults with the other children. After not seeing him for about 5 minutes, and when all the other children had returned to the campsite, his father became concerned and began searching for him. His father ran down the trail for nearly 2 miles until he was sure he could not have gotten any further. After several hours, they sought help from the National Park Service Rangers. The area where Martin disappeared is marked by steep slopes and ravines. Wild animals such as copperhead snakes, bears, feral hogs, and bobcats inhabit the area. A downpour broke out shortly after Martin's disappearance, dropping 3 inches or 7.6 centimeters of rain in a matter of hours, which washed out trails and caused streams to flood. Temperatures on the night of June 14th dropped to nearly 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Search efforts, including a separate search by the National Guard and Special Forces, found no trace of Martin. Heavy rains during the first day's search hampered efforts, and heavy mist the next day. Up to 1,400 people were involved in the search effort, potentially obscuring possible clues. Footprints were found in the area, but dismissed as being Martin's and determined by park officials to have been left by a Boy Scout participating in the search. The child-sized footprints led to a stream where they disappeared. The tracks indicated that one foot was barefoot, while the other foot was in an Oxford, the type of shoe Martin was wearing, or a tennis shoe. Retired park ranger and author Dwight McCarter believes that the prints likely belonged to Martin, as the tracks were not part of a group and none of the Boy Scouts were searching the wild barefoot. A shoe and sock was also found. By June 22nd, 56 square miles of ground had been covered. More than 1,000 searchers continued to look until June 26, when the search was cut back. The search was abandoned on June 29th and officially closed down on September 14, 1969. As of 2021, it is still the largest search in the history of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Dennis's father offered $5,000 reward for information, or $35,000 equivalent in 2020. Psychics including Gene Dixon offered clues, but nothing was found. A few years later, a ginseng hunter claimed to have discovered the scattered skeletal remains of a small child in Big Hollow, Tremont. He kept the find to himself until 1985, because of fear that he would be prosecuted for the illegal ginseng. A subsequent search turned up nothing. The unsuccessful search for Martin led the National Park Service to renew and amend its policies on searching for missing people. 3 main theories exist about what happened to Martin. The first is that he became lost and perished from exposure or some other cause, likely during the first night. This is the most probable theory according to park officials. The second theory is that he was attacked by a hungry bear, or less likely a feral pig, and carried off. And the third theory was that he was abducted and taken out of the park by someone. His father is a proponent of the third theory. On the afternoon that Martin disappeared, tourist Harold Key and his family heard an enormous, sickening scream, and shortly thereafter witnessed an unkempt, rough-looking man running up the trail near where the scream had come from. Key thought the man, who got into a white car, may have been a moonshiner. Park rangers and the FBI concluded that there was no significant evidence to link the sighting to Martin's disappearance, particularly given the Key sighting was approximately 5 miles away from where Martin disappeared, the exact time of the sighting being unknown, and the lack of trails connecting the 2 sites. If you have any information regarding the disappearance of Dennis Martin, please contact the number on the screen. The next case we will be looking into is the disappearance of Teresa, or Trenny Gibson. In 1976, a 16-year-old Trenny Gibson left Barrington High School in Knoxville, Tennessee, on a field trip with about 40 students. Believe it or not, the horticulture teacher, Wayne Dunlap, did not inform the students where they were going until they boarded the school bus, and he would be the only adult chaperone on the trip. They traveled over 50 miles to the Great Smoky Mountain National Park, and the bus parked in a lot near Clingman's Dome. The plan was for the students to spend the day hiking 1.8 miles along Forney Ridge Trail to Andrews Bald Mountain. At the start of the hike, the students separated into groups and Trenny walked the trail alongside Robert Simpson, who was a friend of her brother. The students arrived at Andrews Bald Mountain around 1:30 p.m. Trenny and Robert ate lunch together before she asked to borrow Robert's jacket. They did not hike back together. As Robert claimed, they became separated when he went off to track a bear. At around 3 p.m., Trenny was hiking alongside another group of students, a half mile from the parking lot. The other students stopped for a quick rest, but Trenny wanted to keep going. As they stopped, they remember seeing Trenny walking alone in the distance before she bent down and took a right turn off the trail. The group turned their heads when another student walked towards them, but once they looked in the opposite direction again, Trenny was gone. When the students arrived back at the parking lot a half hour later, they noticed Trenny was missing. Over the course of the next several days, a massive search was performed for Trenny, but she could not be found. A partially open can of beer and 3 cigarette butts would be found near the spot where Trenny stepped off the Forney Ridge Trail, but none of the students admitted to having bought beer on the trip. A number of different search dogs would pick up Trenny's scent at the spot where Forney Ridge Trail intersected with the Appalachian Trail. The dogs tracked her scent to the base of Clingman's Dome observation tower and through the woods for over 1.5 miles before it arrived at a road. The scent trail ended at the spot next to the road, and 8 cigarette butts were discovered nearby, which were the same brand of cigarette butts found in the woods. The afternoon when Trenny went missing was very foggy, so it would have been easy for her to have gotten lost as she stepped off the trail. However, the scent trail caused speculation that Trenny may have been abducted, kept hidden at the Clingman's Dome observation tower until the other students left the area, and then led through the woods to the road by her abductor, and driven away from the area inside a vehicle. Trenny's family had suspicions about another student named Kelvin Bowman. Several months earlier, Kelvin had attempted to break into the Gibson home before Trenny's mother shot him in the foot. Kelvin was sentenced to time in a correctional facility, but reportedly threatened to kill Trenny when he got out. He was released after only serving 6 months, and was back attending Bairden High School at the time Trenny went missing. Some students claimed they thought they saw Kelvin's car following the bus while it drove to the park, but Wayne Dunlap insisted that there were no vehicles following the bus that morning. The school principal also verified that Kelvin was attending classes the entire day. Kelvin would be arrested in 1978 for sexually assaulting a woman in her apartment, and was convicted of third-degree criminal sexual conduct. Some suspicion was also directed toward Robert Simpson, as multiple witnesses reported seeing Trenny's comb, which she had always carried in her right hip pocket of her jeans, on the dashboard of Robert's car following her disappearance. While Trenny's parents were participating in the search effort for her, Robert visited the Gibson residence and made some odd remarks to Trenny's sister about how if Kelvin Bowman had Trenny, he'd kill her, or that she might have run off with some hitchhiker. It was also difficult to account for Robert's whereabouts after he became separated from Trenny at Andrews Bald, but it doesn't sound like the investigators ever considered him to be a serious suspect. In spite of multiple searches of the Great Smoky Mountain National Park, no trace of Trenny has ever been found. If you have any information on this case, please contact the number on the screen. Well, that was truly a grotesque tale. I believe what happened to Dennis Martin is that he got lost or had an accident and then died of exposure. Although it could have been someone else that took him, there just isn't enough evidence to prove it. And with Trenny Gibson, it definitely sounds like she was abducted by that Robert guy. Whatever happened to these people, may their souls rest in peace. Thank you for watching the video. Subscribe, like, and share if you'd also like to keep exploring our grotesque curiosity. We will meet again in the darkness of the night.